Okay, all praise, glory, and honor is mostly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to you in the name of his son, Jesus. I count it truly a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to preach the word, and never do I count it as a light thing to do so. I'm not going to keep you long, evening, brothers and sisters, but I did want to go over some things that this new administration done in the first few days. Okay. And the first is, this is from RT. This is an article I want to read from RT. It says, Biden's executive order that prioritizes gender people is a disaster for ordinary women and girls across America. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have done more damage to women's rights in one day than Donald Trump managed in 4 years with their misguided executive order on gender identity discrimination. Back in January 2017, just one day after the inauguration of President Trump, millions of women in countries all around the world took to the streets to protest against the incoming administration. Although Trump had not yet passed a single piece of legislation, the Pink Pussy Hat marchers were adamant his regime would harm women's rights. Fast forward to this weekend, the knitted hats will remain boxed up and the feminists will stay at home. With Joe Biden, the White House, and even better, Kamala Harris as the first elected Black, South Asian woman vice president, the sisters no longer feel any need to protest. They got their wish. And yet within hours of taking up the post, Biden has done more to set back women's rights in the U.S. than Trump did in his entire 4 years in office. One of his first acts was to sign an executive order on preventing and combating discrimination on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation. The Pink Pussy Hat Brigade purred at the order's mention of respect and dignity. They swoon at talk on the right for all people to be, quote, able to live without fear no matter who they are or whom they love, unquote. This is a far cry from Trump's crude and offensive locker room remarks. But make no mistake, combating discrimination on the basis of gender identity is disastrous for women and girls. Peace to you, Brother Isaiah and Sister Cynthia. Unlike sex, gender identity is a made-up concept. It is the bizarre notion that regardless of the biological reality of our bodies, we all have a feeling deep down inside about whether we are really male or female. This feeling, the gender identity champions tell us, overrides our hormones, chromosomes, and genitalia. How we feel about our gender is more important than whether or not we have a beard, breast, penis, or ovaries when it comes to defining us as men or women. Anyone can now be a man or a woman, and the onus is on the world to accept us for who we say we are. And that's what's going on right now. So the idea is that you could just say you're a man and say you're a woman, or even, listen, biologically, you're one thing. Okay? And the problem is, I'm going to just skip down. It's bigger than the sports, but I'm going to skip down to this. It said, you do not need to assume the worst of teenage boys to acknowledge that teenage girls might want privacy when using toilets or getting dressed after sport. Puberty changes both male and female bodies. Boys become on average taller, heavier, stronger, and faster than girls. Biology never claimed to be fair, but what's really unfair is to allow these stronger, faster boys to compete alongside and against girls on the running track and on the football pitch. Biden's executive order might sound nice, but it signals the end to girls' participation in sports. Brothers and sisters, we're in a twilight zone. Okay? And this is what you're seeing. You saw it a couple years ago where you saw these boys, 2 Black boys. They were biological males competing against biological females and crushing them in sport. I watch a lot of boxing, and I watch UFC every now and again. I watch more boxing than UFC, but I've seen biological male who they thought was a woman fight a woman and crush her. Because the reality is that men are stronger, men have more muscle, more bone density, bigger wind capacity, they're larger. It's no really contest. I haven't heard so as bad as, and I mean bad, I mean skilled. So Serena Williams is in tennis. I heard her in an interview talk about if she was to compete against men that asked that question, she said she'd get crushed. That's the reality. Like they had in I believe it it was this Division I school. They hadn't won a game, and they put a female on the field to kick, and now she's in the college football Hall of Fame because she kicked like 30 yards. It's ridiculous. Okay, it's ridiculous. We are not equal in that regard. He made us different, and for good reason. Let's go to the book on this, and then we're gonna go to another thing that this man has done. Peace to everybody that's in the chat. So this is what, just a side note, this is what Negroes were going to bat for. You know, for all of what people said about the former president, he racist, he this, he that. What did he actually do? He wasn't doing this foolishness. This is Genesis 1 and verse 27. It's verse 26. It says, and God said, let us make man in our own image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Then it says, so God created man in his own image, in the image of God created he him, male and female. That's what he created. And when you deny that, you are denying the creation of God. It's just that simple. There are differences. What you are is not based on what you think. I saw one case where a young man, he was a young boy, was saying that he was trans penguin and was going to school with his penguin suit on. And they didn't know what to do with him. Because they said, well, you know, it's a distraction. He said, you can't violate my rights. I'm a penguin. So we just say what we are, and that's what we are. And then you can change it back and forth. I'm telling you, this is an affront to God, but this is where we're headed. And these are the type of policies that we're going to get under this administration. Let's go to the next one. All right, let's go to the next one. This is from the Christian Post. And this came out on the 22nd. And the title is Biden vows to codify Roe v. Wade on 48th anniversary of abortion ruling. See, for all this that people said, particularly black folks, they went to bat, they made sure Biden was elected despite his past racist policies that ruined generations of black families, with this crime policy that he wrote, despite his racist policy. You remember he one of the last of the Dixiecrats. Despite him eulogizing KKK members, besides him patronizing you and talking crazy and telling you don't vote for me, you're not black, despite all of that. Despite all of that. Somebody asked, do penguins have, y'all look this up. If y'all think I'm lying, go look this up. Do penguins have human rights? It doesn't matter because you are what you, that's what I'm saying. That's the point. This is madness. This is madness, but this is what's being pushed in the media. This is what's being pushed in schools. This is definitely what's being pushed in the upper echelons of academia and higher education. And it is the detriment of society. You have a toppling of the natural order of things. Now, he made male and female, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, to bring forth children in the confines of marriage. And that's what we are supposed to be doing. We throw marriage in the trash. Our people in particular, we have upwards more than 70% of our children born out of wedlock. And I'm going to read this here. Biden vows to, this is because that's important in relation to this. Biden vows to codify Roe v. Wade on 48th anniversary of abortion ruling, anniversary of the day in which it became legal to murder your children. I don't think, Ask Nation, you missing the point. You might be missing the point. He said he contradicts himself by saying he has rights as a penguin. It don't, but it's a contradiction if you're a biological male to call yourself a female. Neither one of them makes sense. It's not about so let me help you out. While more than 62 million lives have been lost to abortion since the 73 Roe v. Wade decision, it says the Biden administration announced on the judgment's 48th anniversary Friday that it will back abortion with the codified federal law in the event the U.S. Supreme Court overturns the ruling. The Biden-Harris administration is committed to codifying Roe v. Wade and appointed judges that respect foundational precedents like Roe, the White House said in a statement Friday. The day after National Right to Life Committee said in its annual report that the total number of abortions since 1973 had exceeded 62 million. That's 62 million abortions, and that's a low number. It's been more abortions than that, and we as our people have a third of those abortions. We've killed 20 million of our children through abortion. We only approximately roughly 40%, 40 million in this country, and we've killed 20 million through abortion. He's gonna make sure that that's codified so we can keep killing our children. See, this is what you wanted. This is what you wanted. Let's go to because I talked about marriage. Let's go to Malachi. This is what you wanted. Let's go to Malachi, the 2nd chapter. And we want to pick it up. Actually, before I do that, I missed something. I want to read something in 1 Peter. And I'm going to be dealing with this later. But 1 Peter, the 3rd chapter. And I want to read something here. And it says just about in the confines of marriage, it says likewise in verse 7, 1 Peter 3 and 7, likewise ye husbands dwell with them according to knowledge, talking about dwell with your wives, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. So we understand that the woman is the weaker vessel. Biologically, physically, she's weaker. That's why that's foolishness what they're talking about earlier in that executive order. It's a denial of things, of nature, of what a man is and what a woman is. And that's leading to your destruction. You're not smarter than God. You're not smart. You don't have a better plan than what he set off. Peace to you, brother Mo. Good to see you there, brother. So now let's go to Malachi. Malachi, the 2nd chapter, I'm going to pick it up at verse 14, because why did he bring a man and a woman together in the first place? Malachi 2 and 14 says, yet ye say, wherefore or why? Because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously, yet is she thy wife, yet is she thy companion and the wife of thy covenant. And did not he make one, yet had he the residue of the Spirit, and wherefore or why one? That he might seek a godly seed. Therefore, take heed to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth. So it's a certain way you're supposed to treat your wife. But then it says, why he brought you in together in the confines of marriage in the first place, that's to bring forth children. And not just any children, a godly seed. Because this what you bring forth, a man, a woman, a child that you bring forth, what is the potential for that child? He says you want a godly seed, but what's the potential of that child? Psalms 82. Psalms 82 and verse 1, he said, God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the gods. He's talking about man here, though. He said, how long will you judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? He tells you what you should do. He says, defend the poor and fatherless. Many of these children that are being aborted would have been fatherless. He said, do justice to the afflicted and needy. How is it that the United States, and our people in particular, would only be at 14% of the population, would support killing babies in the womb where you're most vulnerable under the guise of privacy? That's not privacy. That's murder in the womb. Nevertheless, he said, defend the poor and fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy, deliver the poor and needy, rid them out of the hand of the wicked. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness, all the foundations of the earth are out of course. I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are the children of the Most High. That's your potential. You are to be what he is. Peace to everybody that's listening. Brother Nicodemus and Lawson, peace to you. You are to be what he is. We were made in his image and his likeness. Everything after its own kind. We were made to be God. And you would take that which has the potential to be God at the utmost potential. That's not to mention all the contributions that one could potentially make. You would kill that in the womb. You don't have the right to do that. The child in the womb has personhood. We know that from the Bible. We know that from the Bible. But now let's go to another place. It just shows you how wicked man is. I want to show you that you have personhood in the womb. This is Exodus 21 and verse 22. It says, a man striving her a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her. Meaning if she was pregnant and these men are fighting in the process, they hit this woman or whatever and cause this woman to go into premature labor. It says, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished, according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay her as the judge is determined. In other words, if she goes into premature labor and nothing happens to the baby, he is still fine for causing her to go into labor prematurely. But then it says in verse 23, and if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, strife for strife. So in other words, if that baby died, hey, that man would die. That shows you that the baby has rights in the womb. But see, man has become so wicked and so depraved that they will murder the weakest of us. Let's go to Leviticus, the 18th chapter. Leviticus, the 18th chapter. Because I talked about marriage earlier, because why are they doing it? See, if you were married, more than likely, because you got abortions of women that's married and then they messed around and got pregnant by somebody else and have an abortion. You got that going on. But for the most part, what's happening is people are getting with people, fornicating with people that they don't want to have children with, that they are not in a covenant of marriage with, and a baby is inconvenient. That's why they're having these abortions. And so, because someone say, what about rape? What about incest? As bad as rape is, you confound the act of rape with murder. As bad as incest is, you compound the act of incest through murder. And that's just a small percentage of abortions. The vast majority of abortions occur because a baby is inconvenient. And so what is happening is that people are sacrificing their children on the altar of convenience. I don't want this baby. Throw him away. Throw her away. The fetus, so-called, is not convenient. Well, I liken this to what was going on in the days of the children of Israel when they sacrificed their children unto Molech. This is Leviticus 18 and 21. It says, and thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord. You weren't supposed to pass the child through the fire on the altar of sacrifice. Deuteronomy 12. Because that's what they were doing then. And that's what the same killing of children goes on today. The bloodshed of children is going on even unto this day in this regard. Deuteronomy 12 and verse 31. And our people, killing 20 million babies, have totally lost all moral direction. And if you had true spiritual leaders, that wouldn't be happening. You have some hirelings. You have some pretenders. You have some greedy dogs. They're not leading you in the right way. They're leading you to hell. Deuteronomy 12, and let's pick it up in verse 31. They're the ones even supporting gay marriage. They're the ones supporting these hellish policies. They're the ones even one out of, matter of fact, let me just read about this. Give me 1 second. Now, just to show you how wretched these so-called leaders are. This is from religionnews.com. Peace to everybody that's listening. Peace to your sister Ruth. This is so, I don't call no man reverend. This is Warnick. He won an election recently in Atlanta. He said he's blasted for being a pro-choice pastor, but his position isn't uncommon. Since the Raphael Warnick, the Georgia pastor and Democratic Senate candidate, this was at the time, this was December 18, he already won, described himself in a tweet on December 9th as a pro-choice pastor. He has drawn fire from everyone from his Republican opponent in the state's January 5th runoff election to a host of fellow Black ministers. Doug Collins, the GOP congressman, Warnick defeated in a primary on November 3rd, declared at a recent rally, there is no such thing as a pro-choice pastor. What you have is a lie from the bed of hell. Okay? So, and then you got some pastors that were against them, but they are, but you, this is not an uncommon thing if you want to be a Democrat. Let me skip down a little bit. "27 Black ministers published a letter urging him to rethink his abortion position. But let me read this here. It says, but Jackson said faith leaders were some of the first to advocate for abortion rights in the 1960s. Clergy in New York City, she pointed out, formed the Clergy Consultation Service on Abortion, which worked to connect low-income women with physicians who could perform abortions so they would not attempt the procedures themselves." That's religious leaders. Those are religious leaders. You see. So this is where we're at. Deuteronomy 12 and verse 31. "Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God, for every abomination to the Lord which he hated have they done unto their gods. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods." And that's what our people are doing unto this day. So you should think about it. Again, what kind of destruction is coming to a country where you legalize same-sex marriage, where you push transgenderism and violate divine order and law? What hell is coming to a country that will murder 62 million babies? That's what you should be thinking about. And with that, brothers and sisters, it is always my prayer that you will edify.